Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Southside Beat here on the DK Pittsburgh Sports Podcasting Network and Steelers YouTube channel. Chris Halicke, Matt Williamson. It's been a busy week so far, Matt.
Yeah, just when I, like you, we're always putting out Steeler content, and I kind of looked at this week like, man, it's going to be kind of slow. You can't just keep talking draft picks over and over, and then boom, we got something to talk about for sure.
Oh, yeah. So for those who have been living under a rock, George Pickens was traded a couple days ago. He was traded to the Cowboys in exchange for a third-round pick in next year's draft, and then they do a pick swap in 2027. They trade away their 27 sixth-round pick for the Cowboys' fifth-round pick, and that's it. The George Pickens era in Pittsburgh is over. What was your immediate reaction to the trade? I know that people have probably already heard it on this channel because of the Scouts Eye podcast you did, but immediate reaction, and then maybe having a couple days to sit on it. What's your overall reaction to this trade for the Steelers?
So it happened somewhat early in the morning. I
wasn't awake yet.
I say I sleep in, so I'm just going to tell the world that, hey, I stay up late and I sleep in. And I immediately saw it on my phone first thing as my eyes opened that day, and immediately in that situation, shocked and then not shocked. Right. I mean, like, the longer this went on, when it got past the draft, I thought more and more we're going to see a year of Metcalf and Pickens together, and that's pretty exciting. And I was warming up to that. Get guys out of the box. Yeah. It can help the team in so many different ways. And boy, that's a really exciting and potentially kind of awesome set of receivers. And then, obviously Austin and Wilson and those guys fighting for three is much better than Van Jefferson as your two and what we've been living with lately. Clearly.
Right.
But like you, I'm close to the organization, and we've seen this with Deontay Johnson, Antonio Brown, that Claypool, like there's a point where they got to go. And the more, it's so preliminary, I almost didn't bring this up, but the more I look into next year's draft, it looks pretty awesome. So getting more and more capital is exciting, whether that lands a quarterback or several things or whatever. And that's great, but that doesn't help you win right now. And I understand, and I am on board with the frustration that much of the fan base has is, this looks just like last year's wide receiver core. You got one good ones and a bunch of questions. And I understand that, and I half agree with it because I'll take Metcalf over Pickens. Yeah. You know a lot more about Austin now than you did then.
100%.
Wilson as well, and in the end, I'm fine with it because I've been with teams and around teams long enough that sometimes a guy has to go. But if nothing else happens of note at that position, I too will be frustrated. Like there better be a part two to this story.
I think there will be, and I think that's the thing is that we're like, for example, obviously there have been a lot of names, and I dove into a lot of those names on DKPittsburghSports.com.
I've built a list too. I mean, some are unrealistic, and but
right, and some of them just. There's no telling if they're actually available or not. Talk about the ones that are available for trade, but you look at their situation and think, well, yeah, they might take a phone call, just like the Steelers. They weren't actively shopping George, but at the same time, when they got a phone call that makes them think twice, okay, let's think twice about it. And so the Bears.
One thing I'll tell people, and this is just all across the league, every player on the planet, more guys are on the block than you think, and that doesn't mean they're on the block, but you can get guys easier than you think if you're willing to pay. I mean, there aren't that many per team that are untouchable. Right.
And the second that the Steelers signed DK Metcalf to a 5-year, $150 million contract, that made any possible notion of George Pickens being untouchable completely they evaporated.
Right, you're going to listen. I mean,
right.
These other teams aren't dumb. You can read the team leaves of off-season moves.
When you look at like the Bears situation with DJ Moore, for example, when you're talking about, okay, well, when is the other shoe going to drop? For example, like if they were to trade him before June 1st, they're eating like $34 million in cap space, where if they wait until after June 1st, they save over $12 million. So that's the biggest disparity you could possibly have when it comes to a cap situation between pre-June 1 and post-June 1. So
that doesn't mean you can't talk to them now. That's
right.
That's
you can
only
have
20 days away or something.
Yeah, you can have everything lined up, ready to go. Possibly, they could, Omar and Ryan Poles could be talking like crazy, and then the second June 2nd hits, boom. You never know. Yeah. Or maybe they have their eyes on somebody else. Maybe, they don't want to pay possibly a 4th round pick if that's what it takes to get DJ Moore.
Let me interrupt you, and I do that a lot, and I apologize.
No, but you're fine.
I love all their draft capital for next year.
Yes.
Love.
Do want to get to that too. 100%.
But they're not going to make all those picks. And yes, maybe you want to trade up from 20 to 8 to get a quarterback. 5th round picks aren't going to get you real far in that process. 4ths and 5ths. I love having them, but whoever's picking 8 doesn't want 6, 5, 5th round picks to move to 20. You know what I mean? Like,
you're going to have to trade a future first if you're going to get a quarterback.
No question. But my point is, some of the mid-round picks that they have now, I think they'll trade within the next 6 months. For something, or maybe not. But I mean,
I think before training camp, though.
Yeah. They can be buyers right now.
I will be very, very surprised if they go into training camp without adding to the receiver room. And I don't mean just adding a Van Jefferson type. I mean, don't shoot for the stars here, but if it's Romeo Doubs from the Packers, that wouldn't surprise me. That's not anybody he's not a world shaker, but
he's good and useful and played with Rodgers and I know no one wants to hear this name. Same with Alan Lazard. Lazard and Dobbs to me are. I know people don't get excited about Lazard. He's better than you think, and nobody wants Rodgers buddies. But to me, those are like the floor. Those guys are better. Is what I'm shooting for here.
Right. Because if your receiver room is DK Metcalf, Alan Lazard, Calvin Austin, Roman Wilson, Robert Woods, I think that's a pretty solid, especially when
a lot better than last year.
Especially right. That's the other thing to take into account is it as good as it would have been with Pickens? No. But is slightly lesser talent in the room worth getting rid of the headache? And when I say the headache, I mean a pounding headache that no pain reliever can possibly solve.
Yeah, debilitating.
We're going to take a break really quick, and we're going to get more into that and maybe why they traded Pickens, and then obviously what their options are moving forward. But we're going to take a quick break, and then we need to clear some things up because there are some conflicting reports out there about maybe why the Steelers traded Pickens or not, and or some of the we'll take a break. We'll be right back right after this.
At DK Pittsburgh Sports, we take pride in coverage that connects our city's fans to their favorite teams. Now, that connection's stronger than ever. Introducing our all-new state-of-the-art app. Find expert inside reporting and original podcasts. Check live box scores. Track the latest stats. Chat it up with our community of thousands of fans, all in one place. The new app from DK Pittsburgh Sports. Coverage that connects.
I like that tune.
Yeah. Welcome back to the Southside Beat. Chris and Matt here. So there are some theories out there, and some people just flat out saying things, and I don't know if they really tried to talk to people. They didn't. I don't know. But of course, when a team trades a guy like George Pickens away, the big question is why? Why would you trade a guy away? And then there were some things that came out. I'm not going to name names because I'm not about that. I'll let you put 2 and 2 together. Not you, but anybody watching. Who would say he was really well liked in the building and he was really coachable, and this is a really good situation for Dallas because they're adding a guy that can pair with CeeDee Lamb. I'm not denying the second part.
No, I think it's a great pickup for Dallas.
Yeah, and
where they sit.
I've told people in Dallas, because obviously having lived in Dallas for more than 2 decades, I've had a lot of people ask about it because I got a lot of friends and family there, and I just tell them it's going to be explosive, both in a good way and a bad way.
No doubt.
And that's the reason why the Steelers ultimately did this trade, is because any notion, any report of him not being an issue in that building is just flat out false.
I would say it's just wrong. Right. He's an issue.
It's just wrong.
There's fines that back it up.
There's a lot of things that back it up, but yeah, you can actually put your finger on fines.
Right. You can just trust us on word of mouth or whatever, but there are fines,
But the one thing that I will definitely say, and you can, like, again, anybody watching or listening, anybody, just, again, you're just going to have to trust me. I have literally had players pull me aside on their own volition and complain to me about him.
Mm-hmm.
That's a problem.
Right.
I've never had players do that about any other player.
Really?
Players are very, very...
That's not what players do. Yeah.
Protective of their own and of that locker room. And that's kind of transcendent. Like,
they
that's
police it in the walls,
Yeah. For them to, like, literally be like, I don't even know what to do anymore.
Right,
like,
right.
It's just that to me was whenever I knew something. And Jay Moods here says, I heard Tomlin wanted him gone. I don't know if that's the case or not, but I can tell you right now that with what Omar said today, when he said that once the trade talks actually begin, which was this week, did not happen during the draft, and he cleared that up. Trades begin, like actual trade talks began this weekend. So once they actually sat down and had discussions over it, Tomlin's part of that.
No, of course. No doubt.
And so this doesn't happen if Tomlin pounds the table and says, do not trade him.
Mm-hmm.
This happens, I'm not going to say with his blessing, but it for sure unequivocally happens with him being okay with it.
Tomlin, Khan, and Rooney probably have this conversation. And if one of the three isn't on board, that doesn't mean it doesn't happen. Unless that one is the owner.
The owner trumps all. But
right.
Contrary to popular belief, the owner does trump all in that building. Justin Watson says, I get the trade 100%. I don't get thinking a 33-year-old Texans wide receiver 6 or an unproven slot is a solution at flanker. After last year, you'd think they'd prepare better for what felt inevitable.
Mm-hmm.
I understand the 33-year-old part of it, but I also know that
Robert Woods, right?
Right, yeah. Robert Woods is
he's
not their solution when it comes to this. He is a 4 or a 5 in this offense.
Right.
A guy
he might not even make the team, guys.
Yeah, seriously. Like it's a 1-year deal. It's a very, very cheap deal. There is a legitimate chance he does not make the 53.
Right.
Unproven slot, I would assume you're talking about Roman Wilson, but at the same time, they invested a 3rd-round pick in the guy, and they have yet to really see what he can do. And Calvin Austin was a 4th-round pick, and he missed all of his rookie year.
Mm-hmm.
So, and look what he's turned into. Like, I understand the trepidation when it comes to just saying Roman Wilson can come in and automatically be your slot, but you got to see what you have in him. You can't just say, no big deal. We'll go get somebody else. We're just not going to play the guy.
And they do know a lot more about him now. I mean, he practiced with them heavy. He was in the meeting room every day. There's a lot to learn about that.
Yeah.
But the bottom line to that comment to me is they're just not done.
No,
that's the thing. I mean, if they were rolling with this, be critical. I'll be critical. I mean, it's not enough. Because the obvious thing, too, and we saw this with George, if DK gets hurt, now it's a disaster. I mean, I can't live with that.
Yep. Now, granted, I do think when you come across that situation, because not every team has Jamar Chase and T. Higgins as their number 1 and number 2.
Of course.
There's a lot of teams that if their number 1 goes down, they're in trouble. Like, it's just part of it. But yeah, you'd like to.
Last year,
it was very, very steep. I mean, you're talking about asking Van Jefferson or Mike Williams, who was trying to jump on a moving train, to put it in the Tomlin perspective, or Calvin Austin, and all 3 guys in certain roles are fine, but not as a number 1 option, not as your
They're spokes in the wheel,
traditional X that can win in isolation. You can't do that. Alan here says Austin has made huge strides. I agree. I think he's become a legitimate weapon in that offense and can be used. And remember, everybody likes to think just because he's a little guy that he's a slot guy. He can win on the outside. No. And I liked a lot of the things, especially from him down the stretch, that even make him an option down the field. Obviously, you have to worry about the size when you're talking about consistently playing on the outside. And I think that's why you can't rely on him to necessarily be your WR2 all the time. He's your Z no matter what, like every snap. I get
that's asking a lot. Yeah,
that's asking a lot.
And along those lines, Chris, I don't want them to add a receiver. There's a lot of different styles of receiver that I don't mind them going after, after the catch guy, ball winner. But I don't want someone Wilson or Austin size. They have two of those.
Exactly. Antonio Jackson says, kind of sounded like they were fine with the room as is. They are comfortable with the depth that they have, and Omar said that, but he also said in that presser that they're open to adding. And I know that's GM speak behind a podium, but this is also when you have to kind of trust the reporters that are there. They are going to try to add. Don't expect it to be another Brandon Ayuk Chase situation that it was last year, but
they're going to give up something between a 3rd and 5th round pick.
Yeah, and they have the capital to do it.
And it won't even phase them.
Noah says Deontay was short and mostly played outside. Deontay was a little bigger than Calvin. Calvin's like 5'9" and really, really small. Deontay is like about the same size as Robert Woods, but Deontay was also an elite route runner.
Yes.
Elite.
And he's a man coverage beater, and
yes,
he can live on the outside. They're not the same guys. Austin and Deontay are not the same.
They're not. And as with all the strides that Austin has made as a route runner, I do think he's made some serious strides. He is not quite there when it comes to being the route runner that Deontay was.
Beating press and on the outside, that type of stuff, right?
If Deontay never developed into that type of a route runner, he would have never lasted, ever. Like he would have not have been one of what is it, 4 or 5 receivers in Steelers history to have 100 catches and 1,000 yards in the season. I think it's 4.
Yeah,
I wouldn't say Deontay's Juju and Deontay. I think it's 4. Yeah,
anyway, I wouldn't say that he's little. I mean, he's not big. He doesn't look like DK.
No.
But he's not little.
Yeah, he was like what, 5'11"?
I think like 195-ish, something like that. Yeah, kind of typical receiver size.
Somebody brought it up earlier. I wanted to bring it up because we do kind of have to put a small list together. Lucy 2010s asks who's still out there that could be a legit WR2. Run through the list of guys really quick. Obviously there are still a few free agents out there. Amari Cooper, Keenan Allen, Gabe Davis was available for about 24. Sorry, my internet just kind of did a funny thing.
Yeah, I heard you mention Gabe Davis, and I don't know that he got signed because I retweeted something. He's a Giant.
I think so.
Because I retweeted something from a fake account by accident, and that fake account had tons of action. So I'm not sure that's true.
Oh,
I don't love him.
Okay, if it's not, if it's not true, then Gabe Davis is another option then.
Yeah.
So, anybody else that kind of should be, whether it be a realistic option or not, who's out there that the Steelers could be possibly trying to get?
I think Dobbs is an obvious one. He played with Green Bay. They drafted 2 receivers. Now, Christian Watson probably won't play all year for them. I think Lazard you could get for a 7, and he's better than you think, but I wouldn't say you're done then, and he – real quick on Rodgers. He likes his guys, yes, but it's not because he likes grilling and drinking beers with them, and maybe he does. But he's very particular about his route runners, and he won't throw them the football if they're not there. So it's kind of a trust thing, too. I mean, he had it with Jordy Nelson. He had it, and it goes way back. Jay mentions Jacoby Myers. That was the name on my list that I threw out. I don't know if they'd be ready to move on from him.
Yeah.
But I think he's somebody you could be after. I want to address DJ Moore right off the bat. Now, they drafted a receiver in the 1st round and Luther Burden in the 2nd round, and they have 2 tight ends that they're going to play a lot, including this year's 1st-round pick. They gave DJ Moore big money a year ago. And when they drafted, or when Ben Johnson took the podium, he implied strongly that Moore's effort on tape last year was very lackluster and inappropriate. And it was in a really difficult situation. Now, I threw a list out there with all these names we mentioned, 9 to 10. Hey, these are guys to consider. Not that they're all gettable.
Mm-hmm.
And boy, did I get called a lot of bad names by Bears fans. With there's no way in hell he's going anywhere. You look at the cap ramifications. You're stupid. Blah blah blah. Maybe I'm stupid, but I'd make the call. I mean,
yeah.
And you mentioned the June 1st stuff. What about Tyreek?
No.
I mean, I don't think that helps your drama situation at all. I just wanted to bring the name up, and I'm on the no side too.
I mean, you just got rid of
right. He also has some allegations out there.
Yes. I mean, you just got rid of the guy. I mean, I think there are two things that I've taken away from all of the moves that have happened either this offseason or over the last couple of off seasons. Number one, they are tired of
nonsense.
Well, not just nonsense. They're tired of 9-8, 10-7, getting to the playoffs, losing the first round. They're tired
yes.
They're tired of that. Fans are tired of it. They are more tired of it. Trust me on that.
Everyone thinks, oh, they're happy just getting in the play. No, they're not.
They are not. They want the long-term plan is to get a quarterback and to build around that quarterback. They have 12 draft picks going into next year right now. Not all 12 are going to be used for actual adding players. Like they're going to add 12 players in next year's draft. But even if they trade away 3 of them, you're still drafting 9 players.
Mm-hmm.
And you want to add as many of those players as you possibly can. I mean, look at the overhaul at quarterback from last year, at running back, at now wide receiver.
It's obvious what their plan is to get just to build the nest for the next year's first round pick.
But then the second part of it is they are getting rid of the headaches, the drama.
Yeah.
Deontay last year, George Pickens this year. Like,
you don't want headaches around a first round quarterback.
No,
right. You want Cam Hayward around the first round quarterback.
And the thing is that you want to have. I mean, I go back to the situation Ben Roethlisberger went into when he was drafted. That might not have been a better roster for any young quarterback to go to.
Mm-hmm.
They had a running game, they had a veteran established offensive line, and they had a great defense.
Like, Chris, I've been calling Will Howard next year's first round's caddy. Like I hope you draft Tiger Woods next year.
Yeah.
And Will Howard is his caddy
for
a decade. He's Frank Reich to Jim Kelly. You know what I mean? He's Jason Garrett to Aikman,
Nothing wrong with that. And
that's phenomenal. Makes his transition easier.
I think I even brought this up on a double shot. I think it was the day after or the day that Howard got drafted. So if he turns into Charlie Batch,
right, that's so worth it.
And you actually get your franchise quarterback next year,
right? That's the plan, man.
Why is that a problem? Like,
I don't understand why everyone doesn't see this plan.
Yeah, it's a phenomenal plan if Will Howard turns into a legitimate backup quarterback that you can always rely on to go try and start a game for you if your starting franchise quarterback is injured.
I have 2 more receiver names that I'm just kind of pulling out of my butt, but they were heavily linked to Christian Kirk, and I know he just switched teams.
But they're loaded at receiver.
They took 2 receivers on day 2, and they only gave up a 7th round pick for Kirk. What if you offer them a 5 and they make money on their investment?
3 to 6, you already get.
Yeah, exactly. They also have Mechie. So I think you could get Kirk, and one that I had just hunch, Michael Pittman. He's making money. They got a lot of pass catchers. He had back stuff last year, which I hate.
Yeah,
but back stuff sometimes never goes away. But I'm not a doctor,
Right. Yeah. There are certain injuries that it's like, especially for certain positions, but it's almost any position in football.
Mm-hmm.
Like A back injury for a shortstop in baseball is bad news because how often are you having to bend over to pick up to get ground balls?
Yeah.
It's not like it's like
a shoulder for running backs. No,
yeah, it's yeah. There are certain injuries for certain positions, and a back injury for almost anything in football is bad.
Real bad.
Yeah, I do think. Listen, they are going to make every attempt to add to that receiver room. I don't think they're going to try to sell the farm to do it. Again, the long-term plan here is to have as much capital going into next year's draft. They are absolutely thinking that next year's draft is going to be way better, and not just at the quarterback position, but overall. And if they can make a move of trading a future first and a third, or a future first and 2/3, or a future first and a third and a fourth to go get their guy, whoever it is, they can identify 4 quarterbacks and say, if we get one of these 4, that's our guy that we're going to build around and trust as our franchise quarterback.
And Tennessee's not going to be the market for one. Like, not every bad team's going to. New England's not going to be the market for one. You know,
the
right?
Browns would be the only team, and they would have the firepower because they have 2 firsts next year. But either way, you would get your quarterback and still have 8-9 picks to add to that. You could keep your second. You could have another third, because right now they're in line to have 3 third-round picks, and I don't think it's going to happen. But it could be as many as 5 third-round picks.
Right. They're going to be loaded with mid-round picks.
Yes.
Let me throw some advanced level thinking at you, too.
Yeah.
And I promise you Omar's already thought of this times 1,000.
Oh.
But a lot I've heard a million times. Why would you trade Pickens with a year from now you'll get a third-round comp pick for him? And that's a great way of thinking. I'm glad people out there are starting to think about comp picks. I'm glad the Steelers are very much in the comp pick game. But they have a ton of cap space a year from now. And I don't have a crystal ball.
113.6, by the way. 113.6 million.
Tons. If they know they're going to trade their first-round pick and other big stuff, they might be buyers in free agency and might not be winners in the comp pick game next off season. You need a wide receiver, maybe they go spend on it, and use their draft capital for the quarterback. So they might not be losing more than they gain. You know what I mean?
Yep. And that's what you want to do. I mean, you want to make, whenever you do get a quarterback, you want to make that his situation. You don't want to have him be Bryce Young in Carolina, where you draft your quarterback and you have nothing else around. It is a barren wasteland, and you're pretty much putting all your hopes and dreams and saying, all right, buddy, save us. Can't do that. You cannot do that.
You're begging for failure.
Bryce Young, if he would have went into a much better situation, I guarantee you we're talking about him as being one of the better quarterbacks in the league, at least top half.
I mean, if you flip Bryce Young and CJ Stroud in their rookie year, Stroud would have been a disaster and Young would have looked better. Maybe he wouldn't have been as good as Stroud, but he'd have looked better.
Yeah.
Steelers know this stuff.
They know this. That is why they are adding all the draft capital they have. Again, if you trade a future first, a third, you've got 11 picks left.
Whatever they want. I don't care what you give up.
Yeah. And that's the case. That's also true, because if you get your quarterback, it doesn't matter. Like, is anybody in Kansas City complaining that they gave up a future first to get Patrick Mahomes?
Right. Buffalo trade up twice to get Allen,
Yeah. Nobody's complaining about that. You might have at the time because you didn't like the quarterback, but obviously once he turns into something, then yeah. Oh boy. I just saw a take in here. I hope there's better context here, that Ben succeeded because he had Hines, Plex, and Randall L.
It helped.
It helped, but I mean, shoot, he didn't even have Plex the year that he won Super Bowl 40. Plex was traded after that, or not traded. He walked in free agency.
That's not why he succeeded.
No.
His transition to the league was great. There was some games he threw like 11 passes and handed it to Jerome.
Yeah.
But I think his body of work speaks for itself.
Yeah. No, but definitely early on, and maybe that's what he's talking about. Like early on, Ben definitely had a great supporting cast.
Yeah, Faneca helped too. Right. There's no doubt.
They don't win Super Bowl 40 if Ben goes into a Bryce Young situation.
No.
But at the same time, They don't. Okay, Justin says I was saying as a rookie, I was bolstering your claim. Yeah, appreciate it.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah. And
I always talk
then
about the nest. You need a
yeah.
soft landing spot for the rookie quarterback. The eggs are very
Ben had a phenomenal situation that he went into. Again, he had, it wasn't just the three receivers you talked about. He had a running game, he had an offensive line. He had a great defense that was going to keep the other team from scoring a lot of points. It was a great situation for Ben. But also, and I will say this, I understand his performance in the Super Bowl was not good, terrible. They also don't get there without him.
No question.
They don't win in Indianapolis or in Denver in the two playoff games prior without Ben and the way he played. Really quick before I don't want to not mention it, and then we'll get off. Rookie minicamp did start today.
Oh yeah.
I was on the south side. Really cool to finally start to actually see these guys in person. You see Derek Harmon on film a lot, and then you actually see him in person. And I can tell you right now,
there's a difference to seeing them in person.
Very, very much. Because
very much. Like I can't wait to see DK Metcalf.
You hear,
I can't wait.
You hear all the talk about, like Derek Harmon carrying too much weight in the upper half and stuff like that. Then you see him in person, you're like, that's not going to be a problem.
Yeah. I bet his length is impressive in person. And yeah.
YA Black is massive. That is a massive.
That's what I've heard. Right. Like he's a rare looking dude, even amongst rare looking dudes. Yeah.
And he wasn't, because it was a walkthrough today. So they're not wearing a helmet, and he's got a haircut that makes him look about 3 or 4 inches taller than he already is. So he's just a massive stature of a person.
Like real quick, Chris, like when they got Flozell Adams, like you know, if you looked on the height and weight, he was 6'7", 325, kind of like everybody else.
Yeah.
But my daughter that doesn't know what a first down is could walk down at the camp and be like, who is that guy? You know, like this doesn't look, that's not the same, you know. I always joke, I'm 6'3", 280, but that doesn't mean I'm an undersized defensive tackle.
Yeah, it is different. But no, it was really cool to finally see those guys on the field. Caleb Johnson had a lot of enthusiasm. I think he's going to end up being a really big piece for them on their offense. I think he's a great fit for what they want to do. Derek Harmon spoke for the first time, like really like addressed the media for the first time. And he was blatantly honest, you know, about the stuff that he's dealing with and working through it. And that's seems
like a great person.
Yeah. And it's telling for him to be that vulnerable in front of people. It's even something to do it on a conference call, but to do it in person, like facing an entire scrum of reporters and TV cameras, and to still be that vulnerable, that transparent. Like, you know, he was kind of asked like how he's doing. Is like, I'm figuring it out.
Yeah.
It's cool. It's like, wow, like that seems really mature. And and maybe he talked about being in his element and how that's going to help, and that's great. But again, he doesn't have to talk about that. He could just kind of shut it down with one question. It's like, I want to talk about football.
Yeah. I'm not talking about my personal life or whatever.
Right. Because he's a football player. He doesn't have to talk about his personal life.
He was at the building with his family the day after he got drafted, the day after his mom passed away. Like, coming in from Oregon or I guess he was from Michigan probably, but right.
Yeah. But
still, he got a flight.
Yeah, seriously. It's yeah. It was really interesting, kind of eye-opening to even see that again. It was already eye-opening to begin with the night we talked to him, the night he was drafted, but to see the way he handled that today, I think it was really interesting. Anyway, so rookie minicamp again going on tomorrow. We'll be back again next week for another edition of this show. Really quick, I did want to bring up Butthole has a question here. Do either of you listen to each other's shows? And I can tell you right now that not only do I listen to Matt's Scout's Eye, sometimes whenever he drops the audio in the company Slack, I will listen to it before it even gets posted.
That's cool.
Because I like the night that Caleb Johnson was drafted, I wanted to hear Matt's take on Caleb Johnson. This is before I even know he was starting to tweet out stats.
I went crazy on the Caleb Johnson stats.
Yeah.
you amongst like 6 other people that everyone would know in the media that the next day are like, I hope you don't mind, but I used your Caleb Johnson stats. I'm like, I don't care. They're not mine. I didn't create them.
Yeah. No, and the thing is, like, Matt and I, like, especially when we're on the road and stuff like that, for the combine and owners meetings and stuff like that, it's funny, like, we'll go out and we'll still
like
talk
every almost every night. Yeah.
I would still talk about football. It's like
Dale and I are the same way, like we always joke, like sitting at the bar, drinking Miller Lights or whatever is not much different than our podcast. It really isn't.
So yeah, it's pretty much the same thing. I mean, the only difference is sometimes you have a live band behind you and you're singing songs from the 90s and 2000s in between football takes. So
good stuff.
Yeah. All right. We're going to wrap this up. Really appreciate everybody for tuning in. We'll be back next week. We'll talk about more Steelers stuff. Obviously, maybe, just maybe, we'll have another transaction to talk about. If not, there's still gonna be plenty of stuff to talk about because we're also
there's a schedule out by then.
Yeah,
all that kind of stuff is happening. The NFL never disappoints.
Yeah, it really doesn't. There's not any kind of dead time from here until I'd say after minicamp's over, and then even then, that first show after, you'll still have some stuff to talk about, and then for a while, it's gonna be like, all right, let's try
about 3 weeks now at most. Into July.
Yeah. All righty. Appreciate everybody for tuning in. We'll catch you guys next week. See you later.